now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center, where a short time ago we were told that a plane crashed into the upper floor.
The tower of the World Trade Center has just collapsed outside Washington at the Pentagon, where an estimated 189 people lost their lives. 118 bodies have been recovered.
By now, we are all too familiar with the images of the terrorist attacks in the United States on September 11, 2001. Immediately, air travel was shut down in the U.S., with commercial flights having to make emergency landings throughout the United States and Canada. In Newfoundland and Labrador, over 13,000 people landed in the province on flights destined for the U.S., requiring the province to put its emergency response plan into action. Oliver Langdon is the Minister of Municipal and Provincial Affairs, the department responsible for emergency measures in the province.
Well, I can honestly say to you, we were in a cabinet subcommittee downstairs in this building when a note came in said that one plane had struck the towers in New York. And I guess the first thought for me was that the plane had strayed off course and by some error that struck the building. And then in a matter of moments, another note came into the room and says, well, a second plane had gone into the towers, and then obviously everybody knew that it wasn't an accident. And I immediately left and talked to my Deputy Minister here, Bob Smart, and through there with the emergency measures, and then all the other government agencies that were involved, the Human Resources, Employment, and through the City of St. John's and everyone else. And we had the idea that a number of planes were going to be landing here in the province. In each region, like in the St. John's region or in Gander or in Conor-Brook or whatever, there is, each region and city and towns does have an emergency planning place. And for years, they would do the mock exercises, and everything worked off very, very well. And because they had practiced it, like you said, with the Red Cross, with the St. John Ambulance, with all the different agencies around here, the Salvation Army played a great part. Everybody just seemed to know exactly what they had to do.
Immediately, the Emergency Measures Organization, along with the Provincial Departments of Human Resources and Employment and Health and Community Services, collaborated with community agencies and municipalities to prepare for the deplaning of the 13,000 passengers who were waiting on airstrips at airports across the province.
Newfoundland Labrador Emergency Measures Organization, of course, activated the Provincial Emergency Operations Center at approximately noon on September the 11th. We brought all the respective resources to that table that were appropriate. We had the police agencies, both Constabulary and the RCMP, we had OCPIP, we had Department of National Defense, we had our provincial agencies, Health and Community Service, Human Resources and Employment, Municipal Provincial Affairs, of course, were there as the lead department, the department being responsible for Newfoundland Labrador Emergency Measures Organization. A sister division within Municipal Affairs, the Office of the Fire Commissioner, of course, was brought to the table to support the EMO staff, and we began an operation that ran 24 hours a day. The Emergency Operations Center was staffed continuously throughout the emergency. Well, certainly as the day unfolded, as the events of September the 11th unfolded, and later in that day, of course, when we became aware that the U.S. airspace was closed and obviously was not going to reopen that particular day, it was then that we realized that we were going to have to move our plan forward and take further actions. We couldn't keep the people on board the aircraft any longer. They had to be deplaned due to the very fact that the aircraft were something as simple as running out of fuel to keep the auxiliary power units operating in the aircraft, which would have taken services in the aircraft such as air conditioning. It was a warm day, September 11th, would have taken the air conditioning out of service. There were food requirements that had to be met. There were medical requirements for some of the passengers that had to be met. So it was that we knew they had to be deplaned. We knew we were going to have to take them under our care, if that's the way of putting it, and begin to meet the needs of what turned out to be approximately 13,000 passengers.
With responsibilities recognized, the different agencies began the task at hand. Elizabeth Horwood from the Department of Human Resources and Employment explains.
Through previous encounters with emergency measures, our plan is in place, and Human Resources and Employment, of course, is responsible to make sure people are housed or sheltered. that the food is looked after for victims of any tragedy, plus any registration and inquiry that needed to be done. The first steps, of course, was to work with the Red Cross and the Salvation Army to ensure that there was a registration and inquiry place set up, a central area in all the different areas of the province, and also to try and find out how many people we would have to work with in case it was going to take time and 2 or 3 days. We needed to know how big the shelters would have to be, and what exactly the emergency was, and if there were medical problems involved, that we would also have to get in touch then and work with the health system as well.
We had received calls from Human Resources and Employment, and they had asked us to provide family reunification services both here in St. John's, also in Gander and Stephenville. So we were aware of that at the time, and because we had been working with Human Resources and Employment over the last few years with regards to planning for a memorandum of understanding, that they knew that we were capable of providing that service to the passengers. Family reunification is a service that we're actually mandated to provide. It doesn't matter how big or how small the disaster is. That's a service that we will always provide, and we're actually mandated as an auxiliary to the federal government to provide that service. So it operates in, I guess, 2 blocks, for lack of a better expression. The first block is we actually register people, take their information, and then we establish an inquiry line so that family members, friends, neighbors who may be concerned about individuals and other families, that they could call the Red Cross and find out where they are. So the whole purpose is to reunite separated families and to give the people that are looking for them some sense of peace, and to, I guess, relieve any anxiety that they may have in not knowing where they are.
We went up to the airport and did analyzed the situation, did an assessment, decided that this was going to be bigger than our first team was going to be able to address. We made a contact back to our administrative team, and calls were put out to all of our employees, our volunteers, and our churches and our facilities to prepare themselves for passengers, for deplaning passengers, even before we knew that would happen. We decided to get our passengers, or our accommodations, prepared.
The actual deplaning of the passengers was handled through the various regions. My role was at the Provincial Coordinating Centre, and I dealt with the emergency coordinators in the regions, who were like the town managers plus our regional managers, and we had all kinds of flip charts up, and made sure that as passengers were deplaned, and I know they tried to deplane them, the longest one on the tarmac was the first for the people to come off, and we kept numbers as each plane was unloaded. There were buses ready to take them, and our staff, through registration inquiry with the Red Cross, were able to tell us the exact numbers. They were all bused to the reception center, and our staff were able to tell us the exact numbers. And by plane, we put people in specific designations or locations. For instance, a certain plane load would probably went to, say, a couple of Salvation Army churches or to a school hall. And we had to coordinate it that way, because we didn't know how long people would be here for, and we couldn't have people all over the place. So that was up to the regional managers plus us on a provincial. We knew through the Provincial Coordinating Centre how many passengers we had in each place, how many passengers were on each plane, if any of them needed special attention or special accommodations. We knew that in the provincial system, because the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Oliver Langdon, that was his overall responsibility, and we, in this case, reported to him.
Once registered and provided shelter, emergency measures faced other challenges when it was clear the landed passengers stay in Newfoundland